EMDR therapy is eye movement and desensitization reprogramming. It's used specifically in relation to trauma to help you literally reprocess traumatic events that have happened in the past. I did not know what I'd let myself in for. Hey folks, it's Finn. Welcome back, lovely people. It's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for choosing to spend time with me today. And if you're watching for the very first time, then a massive welcome and thank you so much for choosing one of my videos. I hope you enjoy what you see here today, and if you do, please consider subscribing. It would be lovely to have you as part of the Finn fam. So today I want to talk about my experience of having EMDR therapy. Now this is a video I've been asked to make before and I've been wanting to make for a while, but I've needed to wait because it's been really raw for me to talk about, and also because talking about it also leads to something else that I've been holding back about talking about until I was ready, but I'm also ready to talk about that now. I've just needed a bit of time, so I want to talk about EMDR therapy today, and then it also leads on to another topic that I want to talk about as well. So what is EMDR therapy? EMDR therapy is eye movement and desensitization reprogramming. It's used specifically in relation to trauma to help you literally reprocess traumatic events that have happened in the past and move past them. It's used when kind of traumatic events are stuck, and it's done alongside kind of tapping parts of your body. It's it felt a really kind of strange concept to me, and the reason that I had it suggested for me was because I do have a lot of very traumatic events that have happened, events that I've kind of worked through, that I felt that I'd kind of come to understand. I've done a lot of work on myself, but that perhaps even though I'd gone through it kind of like on a mental understanding level, subconsciously it was still there and affecting me, and so going through it with EMDR might help me. It was suggested to me after I'd gone through a huge crisis event following that awful experience I had with my PIP benefit being refused. For those who follow me, you'll remember that I had this absolutely awful experience where I'd gone to get assessed for PIP benefit, and despite my health getting so much worse, they'd denied me my benefit, and not only denied me but really lied about what had happened during the assessment. Luckily Chris had been there with me, so he knew what had happened, so it wasn't just my opinion, he'd actually been there and he saw that the lies that had happened, you know, the misgendering that had happened in the report, it was just awful, and it had just triggered so much like past stuff, and I'd really hit rock bottom. I was having some really dark thoughts and really struggling, and I ended up back in therapy, and I was already struggling at the time with coming to terms with my chronic illness. My diagnosis was very new. I'd gone from thinking that I was unwell and I could be given something to just cure me, to suddenly finding I had what could potentially be a lifelong illness with ME/CFS, and then I found out afterwards I also had POTS. So I was then coming to terms with this like long-term chronic illness, and then on top of this, denial of benefits, the potential of having like to go to tribunal, which could take a couple of years to fight, and I just had enough. I was feeling like a burden, and flashing back to like my childhood and growing up with a mum that was disabled, and also lots of trauma that had gone on with my mum. There was a lot of emotional neglect in my childhood, and even though I'd come to an understanding of that because my mum had gone through her own kind of emotional neglect, and me and mum had made our peace. If you follow my channel, you know that me and mum made our own peace, and before she died, we had the most beautiful relationship. But I'm someone that I know I have this history in therapy of being very good at talking through my emotions. I'm very emotionally intelligent. I'm very able to talk about my emotions, but I do have problems in really feeling stuff. And that's something I've become very aware of over the last few years. That combined with the knowledge that an element of my chronic illness may well have been caused by my chronic anxiety and trauma made me think that, there could be an element of unconscious stuff still affecting my health. So when a therapist suggested doing the EMDR to see if, rather than talking about stuff, actually trying to just feel it might be helpful, it kind of made sense. Does this make sense? Rather than me going through the normal pattern of trying to explain how I feel, not using words, but just letting the feelings come up could be good. I did not know what I'd let myself in for. So, in terms of how EMDR works, I think there's lots of different ways that they can do it, but basically, how it worked for me, I had mine online. So my therapist would talk to me about an event that was particularly triggering, and then we'd pick out a phrase about something that had happened, and then I would tap myself like this, and then kind of go back to it in my head, and then just kind of say whatever images were coming up, thoughts or feelings. So not actually talking about the event that was particularly triggering, but just anything that was coming up around it. It was weird. Really peculiar. Often nothing was happening and I was like, am I doing this right? I'd just be there with my eyes closed, doing this, and I could hear my therapist talking to me and just ask me, what's coming up for you now? What's coming up for you now? And I'd be saying random stuff, just thinking, am I making this up? What's really going on? I was just feeling really anxious and just saying, I'm just anxious. I don't know if any of this is making sense. It was just really odd. Odd things were coming up, odd images, and I was often leaving the sessions just thinking, has any of that really made any sense? So did it help? Well, sometimes it seemed to kind of bring up memories that kind of connected to how I was feeling now. I can't cry. There's been weird few times in my life where I've been able to access crying, but not very often. I was hoping it might access that for me again, but it didn't. I didn't seem to really be able to connect with emotions at all still. It really wasn't doing that for me. But what it was doing was in between the sessions, leaving me really raw and exposed. All the stuff that I'd kind of had going into the therapy between sessions was getting worse. Me and Chris were kind of arguing a lot. I was reacting a lot more to things and just feeling really raw and exposed and just having a lot more difficulty in life in general. The stuff that I was finding before this therapy, that I went into therapy for, was just getting worse and worse. It was just like layers of skin were being removed and nothing was being replaced to protect me, and I didn't really know what to do. And I kept saying this every time I was going back to the therapist, and she was just saying that this is often what happens, stuff gets exposed and it's uncomfortable, but eventually it starts to settle down and It really just wasn't. Now, this should have ended at a certain point, but because I was in such a bad way, my therapist said, okay, for the end of this, we're just going to have some talking sessions and we'll do it that way. Because it seems that for you, it's bringing stuff up, but it's not settling things down. So towards the end of it, we just had some talking sessions for about the last kind of 5-6 weeks, I think, to try and work out what was going on for me. And neither of us could really work out what was going on, but she couldn't lengthen my sessions anymore. So at the end of it, she just did a referral to psychotherapy for me, because she just decided that what was happening was that it was bringing things up that needed further talking work. So she'd refer me for that, but that I'd need a period of consolidation before I could have that. So I'd need to basically go away, have a couple of months to see what kind of settled after this therapy, and then I could have this psychotherapy. But because I was in such a dark place and having dark thoughts, they'd put me in touch with the crisis team in the meantime, so that I could have some support, because I was in such a bad way. My mood was low, my anxiety was high, I really wasn't coping with life. Chris didn't know what to do with me. Me and Chris actually went and got some support for ourselves as a couple, because we were struggling so much with what it had brought up, because we were just not understanding each other. I was reacting left, right and centre and just not managing life at all. So would I recommend EMDR? See, this is the thing, isn't it? It's not one size fits all. In retrospect, it helped, because what it did was it stripped back some layers of stuff that was underneath that I needed to address, which is a topic for next week's vlog. Because it needs a whole other vlog in itself. But I didn't know that until I had further therapy. So what happened was, after the EMDR, I then had some sessions with a mental health support worker, and between me and her, we worked out what was going on. And so I personally, from my own experience with the EMDR, would say that I think what needs to probably happen with EMDR is that you have some sessions with it, but then you have some sessions of talking therapy banked for afterwards, just in case it doesn't resolve the issue during it, like it did with me, because it left me. It brought stuff up for me that needed talking therapy afterwards. For other people, it may well be that it kind of sorts the trauma stuff out during it, and it's okay, but for me it didn't. It brought stuff up that actually turned out to be nothing to do with the trauma stuff I thought it was. It kind of was, but kind of wasn't. And it needed the talking therapy afterwards. So I think it's really, really helpful for people like me that have a tendency to just kind of talk a lot in therapy and need help to cut through to the unconscious stuff underneath. I think it's really good for that, because if you ask me how I am and whatever, because I don't know, I can talk and tell you how I think I should feel and start going off on tangents, because I'm so into therapy and so into psychology and so into the human mind. I will sit and philosophize about what's going on and what I feel and what the world's about and all of that, because I'm good at that. But what I'm not necessarily good at is how it's actually feeling. So, and what's really under there. And so EMDR is really good at what's really like under the surface that I can't get to, that needs like the feeling stuff. It's making sense to come out. And I think that's what it was good at. But yes, short answer of the long vlog is, I wouldn't have it again because it was so weird. But I'm grateful I had it, because it definitely helped to unearth and undo some stuff that I'd been squishing that needed to be unsquished and unearthed. And that is what I'm going to be talking about in next week's vlog. I'm very sorry that I'm going to make you wait, but it's going to have to be a topic in of itself. So, have you ever tried EMDR? What was your experience of it? What's your thoughts? Are you thinking of trying it? Please don't let me put you off. I think it's very good to be informed and hear other people's experiences. But yes, do let me know what you think in the comments below. Always welcome your thoughts. Thanks for watching, folks. Take care of yourselves, and please do tune in for next week. I'm very nervous about what I'm going to share, but I'm also really looking forward to finally sharing what I've been nervous but waiting to share with you. Take care, folks. Bye bye.